Welcome to the Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
Still waiting. And what else? And yeah, the last 2 weeks, it's kind of been full of various, I should call them, I think, time-consuming annoyances. At least at this point of time, they don't seem to be kind of really risky or really having some long-term consequences, but definitely second time. So the largest one is that we live in a homeowners association, and our neighbors, they do not have kids, and honestly they do not like kids. And at some point of time they were kind of like upset that the kids, including our kids, are playing on the common property, which is just basically a street behind the gate. And they started complaining to the board of directors that, look, I mean, this is for the cars, and like the kids should not be there, and if kids are there, there should always be an adult present. And the board of directors, being kind of a group of reasonable people, basically told them, just forget about it. I mean, this is a baseless accusations, and this is just a common property, and everybody can play there, and it's just the rules of the games. And those neighbors, they now decided to file a common complaint with Child Protective Services. So now we've got people from Child Protective Services basically come. They want to interview us. They want to kind of interview kids. So we talked to a couple of lawyers, and lawyers basically says that, look, guys, we don't even want to take your money. This is like 99% the baseless case. They will just come, they will just talk to people, they will just follow their protocol, and they will be gone, and they will close the case. And the only reason why they even knocked your door is because they must. I mean, if there is a kind of child complaint case filed, they cannot just ignore it. They have to do something, and this is just going through the emotions. But obviously sucking quite a bit of time. So I'm not sure why. What's the purpose of this? But
wow, I'm so sorry.
Got sucked into this. Well, again, the way it currently looks, it's just going to be kind of a drain on time and drain on emotions. Okay. There will very unlikely be any serious consequences, even though who knows.
Right.
And another one is that at some point of time we decided to financially help a guy from Africa to get some medical treatment in India. And basically, he knew what he wanted, and we say, well, okay, we're just gonna pay for your airline tickets, and once you come to India, we're just gonna pay your medical bills up to a certain amount. And so now this guy went to India, and their kind of the money that the Indian hospital wants from him is about 5 times more than the original estimate.
Oh.
And you're like, well, no, guys. So we told you how much we are willing to help, and this is pretty much it. But he's now stuck, and I mean, they just literally try to upsell him. And India being 11 hours away from us, it's kind of difficult to communicate with these people. Again, for us, it's not something with kind of long-term consequences, but very kind of emotionally draining, and had to spend a couple of nights just talking to them and trying to sort the situation through. So that's been the last couple of weeks for me.
Several emotionally draining things, honestly.
Yeah. It's several kind of emotionally draining things likely without long-term consequences, but definitely take time, energy, and emotions for sure.
Wow, I'm sorry about that. On the job search, did you say that you had some short-term contracts or something?
Well, it's, I mean, you'd ask for my report, it would be the same as it was 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
So I'm in discussions with another private equity group about kind of a very well fitting opportunities, but the previous one fell through, and this one I'm waiting to hear back from them. So hopefully with good news, but we'll wait and see. Maybe there's going to be another round while this one falls through and another one appears and I interview. So we'll see. It's definitely a test on patience for sure.
Amen. I can understand that very intimately. Jordan, what's going
on? Well, still working to grow this very young business that God gave me. It's slower and more tedious than I had hoped, but just praying for fresh ideas and that direction of where he wants to go. Cleanup is doing very well on our service side. I mean, we care, and so it's very tremendous. If I would say that we need something, it's really the resources to move faster. But in my quiet time yesterday, it was very clear that God was letting me know that He's the provider, and so I'm not really sure what that means. If it's like keep doing what you're doing, but just knowing it comes from me, or none of what you're doing is going to work because I'm going to bring you the provision I want to bring you. So it's just one of those things.
Okay.
And then obviously family. So.
Yep. Good stuff. Hey, if you want to schedule 3 or 4 hours, even this week, on the JL stuff, I'd be happy to do a little collaboration.
Okay.
I seem to have some fresh time on my hands. Tomorrow is a little bit bad, but then Thursday, Friday, there's a lot of availability. So it'd be fun for us to wrap. And I get things out of that, as well.
Yeah.
So it's like the collaboration has a 1 + 1 = 3, so the short story. So mine leads into the main message tonight, which will be ultimately about Esther, and the Lord just gave it to us right before the call based on my need. And I told Jordan I really didn't want to have the life group be about me, but he said that when I'm transparent, or when anybody is transparent, there's an opportunity for that to help others. So he convinced me to share this, and then he's got a really good story which pulled me out of the fire just 20 minutes ago or something. I don't know. So yeah, I'll just show you the quick story. So I was I've had 2 or 3 pretty close looks at jobs over the past several weeks. Something, I'll make it a certain amount, and then for whatever reason, it just didn't go all the way through. In a pandemic, there are obviously a glut of people that are available for every role. And so, you try not to take it personal. You just do your best. Well, there was one job where I used to work at the company that was basically going to be, instead of sales management, it was going to be sales enablement, which I never really considered doing sales enablement before. But to be totally honest, I kind of operate as an enablement person. I am a sales enablement. That's how I even run a sales team, is in a very enabling way. You know what I mean? So you have certain sales management styles that tend to track metrics. It's not my strength. I got to do better about that. Mine is not that. Mine's more like, I'll actually help you on the deals, and I'll help you come up with ideas and structures and messaging for the customer. That's my strength. Okay. So that's enablement oriented. And so when this job kind of appeared out of nowhere, it kind of took some convincing, to have me think about that. but then it was like they really wanted me and all that. So they gave me a verbal last week for this job, but it was like such a financial setback. I can't even tell you, like years. Like enablement just doesn't pay what sales management pays, apparently. And so I told him, I would think about it for a couple of days. And then I spoke with the hiring manager, which is a VP of revenue operations. And, I kind of just, had this honest conversation with her. And I said, could you try a little bit more, you know, whatever that is. And so, we had some really friendly dialogue on Thursday and Friday. And Friday, I even described it as my dream job. So I'm telegraphing very positive vibes about this. But I'm still waiting for her to check, like she said, and see if she could do a little bit more, you know. And so yesterday, I'm a very strong follow up person. It's just everybody has something. It's not always good either because I can bother people sometimes, but I follow up well out of a normal DNA thing. Um, and so yesterday, I've literally forced myself not to ping her to check on that. And then today, it's killing me. And I literally forced myself not to check on it again. And Jamie was even like, should you be calling her? And I'm like, you know, I'm waiting on her. I mean, I don't want to bother. I don't want to put pressure on, right? And again, the last thing I said on Friday at 5 p.m. Friday, so we're not talking days has gone by here, was that this is my dream job. I guess I have to wait till Monday. Because again, with that phrase, I guess I'll have to wait till Monday, that says it's in her court. You know what I mean? But I got a message at 4:09 p.m. today that, hey, Brian, we're closing this out because you didn't get back to us. Like it was such a weird off message. Like it was not what I expected. Because I didn't fail to get back to her. So I called her immediately within like 2 minutes and I left her a voicemail. She didn't pick up. And then I texted her and then I texted the recruiter and I left him a voicemail and they're just ghosting me. I also replied to the email. That's the first thing I did. I was like, hey, there's a big misunderstanding. And that because in her message, she said that they were going with the next candidate on the list or whatever. And so here I am thinking, and Jamie and I actually did the math over the weekend and we were like, well, we'll just take it. It's going to be fine. It'll work. We'll figure it out. And then here we are basically at what looks like an unnecessary risk. Like literally I had a job. I mean, I had an offer. And I even figured out how to make that work financially. And so basically what I've been facing over the past 3 hours is these feelings of dread, like I messed up. And so anyway, that's the story, guys. I mean, that's the story. When you have, fortunately, my wife does work, but when you have a situation where it kind of it may not be fair and it may be kind of weird, but you're waiting on them and then they're like, hey, because you didn't get back to us, we're cutting this off. And then they ghost you and they won't respond. And I don't know how you go from as friendly as it was last week to that. So anyway, that's what happened. And I have one more job opportunity, which there is competition for. It's absolutely my second choice. I would have done this other one first in my mind. And so that's where I'm at, is after all that work, like 5 or 6 interviews, I think 6, and being selected, like that's how it's going to go down. It would have been nice if they just checked on me and said, hey, how come it's taking so long? What you're thinking? And none of that happened. It was just like a breakup email. And so I don't know what's going on, but I'm really confused. I'm doing much better actually, because of the story from Jordan. So anyway, Jordan, maybe you can describe kind of how that conversation went and kind of the story about Esther that you gave me, which basically pulled me out of the fire.
Yeah, and so I mean, listening listening to Brian as he first popped on earlier, I just remind him that you have two choices. Even in the midst of if you got a word or don't have a word, something's encouraging or don't. We all only have two choices, and it's, are you going to trust God or are you not? And as I'm telling him this, I just really felt like I had a couple of things to share to him. And the first thing being is that the enemy wanted him to believe that this is his fault because he didn't reply in a timely manner, because he didn't do something, then it's his fault. He lost this job. And again, we're telling this conversation now, and Howie, maybe you can recollect this as I'm talking. But he didn't tell me everything that he's telling you guys. He had just told me very little. Yeah. And I just told him, I think that you're feeling this way. And I'm telling you that the enemy's trying to make you feel this way. And that's not right. That God is the one who closed this door. God is the one who hardened this person's heart, just like he hardened Pharaoh's heart. If you remember, Pharaoh told them to leave. He was in agreement. Yeah, go ahead. Get out of here. I'm all good with it. And then at the very last minute, he hardened the heart. God hardened his heart, and it wasn't his choice. So that God could have the outcome that he wanted. God wanted all the glory. It wasn't Moses who got them to leave. It wasn't anything. It was so that God at the very end could show you that it was his mighty hand who saved you. And it was through walking through the Red Sea, walking through something that was something that they could not accomplish. There's no way they could get to the other side. There was no way they could fight back against Pharaoh. And the only way was if God rescued them. And it was a story then they could share with their children and their children and their children forever. And that we still look at, 4,000 years after it happened and say, God is good. That's how God operates. And then I transitioned to tell them about the story of Esther, about how all throughout the entire book of Esther, God's name isn't mentioned one time. And if you're looking at it from an outside point of view, you're curious as to where God is. I mean, you're taking this young girl who's a virgin and you're putting her in this situation where her only option is she has to be in bed with the Pharaoh, something that God is against. But yet he puts things in motion on purpose to rescue an entire people group. But the only way is if, number one, Esther has to be encouraged by Mordecai, has to follow what Mordecai is sharing. But then Esther then asked Mordecai back, hey, I need everybody to fast with me. I need everybody to be included on this. And then when it seems like at the very end, all the Jews are going to die, they're going to be slayed, it's at the very last minute is whenever the tables turn, and not only does their enemy, lose his head, but then they reap the reward and we're able to take all of the gold and everything from those who were about to take it from them. And so it's just one of those things where you're in a moment where you have to trust. And I actually pulled up 3 verses. I don't know how, if you just want to write them down and I'll read them, or if you want to.
Yeah, I'll write them down. Let me do that, and then you can read them.
So, and I don't mean to go on a big tangent here. I just figured.
No, please go on the tangent. It's great.
Put this thought together.
It's great.
And so again, just this is all just as Howie's talking with me about this, and even again, as we're resharing, I told you, again, when I was telling you that the enemy wants to put it on you. Okay. I was telling you, remember Proverbs 16, and in Proverbs 16, there's 3 verses in a row, Proverbs 16 verses 1,
3 and 9. And these verses clearly define who's in control of everything.
Okay.
Right. And so I'll read them to you. It says, go ahead and make all the plans you want, but it's the Lord who will ultimately direct your steps. So that means even if you make bad decisions, even if you make bad choices, even if you choose to run away from God, it's He who ultimately directs your steps right to where you're supposed to be. So these aren't just good choices, these are bad choices too. Verse 3, before you do anything, put your trust totally in God and not in yourself. Then every plan you make will succeed. So it's not lay all your plans out. It's trust God 100%, and then every plan will succeed. And then verse 9, within your heart, you can make plans for your future, but the Lord chooses the steps you take to get there. And so all three of those clearly show who's in control of all of this. I mean, it's not just Howie in your job search, and Dennis, it's not just you and your job search, and Dustin, it's not just you, and it's certainly not me. It's God is in control of every detail of our lives. And the more that we buy in that He's in control of every detail, then when things come up that surprise us, we realize it doesn't surprise Him. And so then we go to Him for wise counsel, go to Him for comfort, which is what He says He is. And then, and so then it allows us to build our relationship together. And then the second cluster of verses is Romans 5.
Hey, quick second. Let's do a little bit. I really want to get to those, but can we do a little bit of a roundtable on that? Because we've shared a lot and we haven't gone around yet.
Yeah.
Dustin, what out of that kind of spoke
Sure.
to you for your situation, or just what anything you want to share along any of this content? We've got a lot of great content.
Sure. I love the Book of Esther. One thing that just comes to mind is the whole job interview that I had for.
Oh yeah, you totally went through
7
this.
months. Yeah,
yeah, I remember that. Of course.
I was like, Lord, you gave me this opportunity. I'm gonna be faithful. I'm gonna be faithful. I'm gonna, you've given me this opportunity. I'm the candidate. I'm the guy. I'm the number one. Everybody wants me. And then at the end of it, what do? Oh, hey, we want you to move to a different state.
Yep.
And I know how you feel, Brian.
Wow, you sure do.
It's a punch in the gut. But the thing that's so beautiful about Esther is that even though God has never spoken about, His hand is all over it, right? And if you look back, how many times has God pulled you away from jobs that would have been just a disaster? Even in my past, I've had job opportunities where I thought, oh, this is going to be the next best thing.
Yeah.
This is going to be where I need to be. And then, the door gets shut for no reason. I even had a guy, I was supposed to be traveling to do these install things for dealerships, like doing these software upgrades that they were this small company in Dallas. And I knew one of the guys that was trying to get me on, and before you know it, he ghosts me. He ghosts me for 3 weeks. I've interviewed for the position. I'm supposed to get the job, and he ghosts me for 3 weeks. And then finally, I contacted the CEO or whatever. I emailed him or I messaged him or something, and he goes, "Oh, yeah, we went in a different direction. And by the way, that guy doesn't work for us anymore."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So multiple times. And I look back now, I didn't want that job. I wouldn't want that job.
Yeah.
I'm literally at the best place I could be right now. I'm working from home.
Yeah.
I get to spend more time with my family.
Yeah.
And I have more time to be constructive for whatever God's, doing for me. I'm exactly where I need to be because this is where God wants me. And And whatever's going on right now, he's molding me. I'm a, he's the potter, I'm the clay, and whatever he's doing in me, he's doing it right now. And so, trust me, Brian,
Wow.
I completely know what you're feeling, but you're going to be
Wow.
so grateful for this process.
Thank you. It's interesting, even in my rebellion, actually, you made me think about something I just told my daughter Noelle like yesterday or the day before. I was in my rebellious years in my 20s, and I was driving to JB Hunt to interview to drive a truck, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I was going to go do that and leave kind of the low level computer stocking the shelves job I had at CompUSA. And I got in a wreck on the way there, and I totaled my car, and I never even, it really just cut that off. I never pursued driving a truck, and now I've ended up in the computer field, and I've done all the different things, and it's been a good fit for me, and that would have been a fine career, but this has just been a probably a little bit better fit for me, for the things that I like to do and whatever. So, but I had to go through a car wreck and total my car. So you kind of reminded me that I never thought about applying that little mini disaster to my current time, but you made me think about that based on your situation. So I appreciate you sharing.
I had a car fall on me that changed my
That's
trajectory
right.
in life. Yeah. And then right after that, I met my wife. I mean, that's, dude, you can't really
choose that. That's a complex path.
Yeah, I couldn't have written it any better. I mean, God's such a better writer than I am.
Totally. Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing. That's really, really, really good. Dennis, based on any of this stuff, what would you like to share?
Well, I'm not really familiar with the Ether story, so I'm not going to comment too much on that, but I will definitely comment on kind of my reaction to your story and your experience. And correct me if I'm wrong, but my kind of initial impression from your story was that if you accepted this job, that's going to be a compromise for you, right?
Yeah,
so that's not exactly what you wanted to do, and kind of the financial situation was not in there.
Yeah.
And if I were to guess, just kind of knowing the humankind without exceptions, so that's definitely me, and I think you fall into the same bucket along with everybody else who lives on this planet, is once we get something that is not really good fit for our lives, let's put it this way, but that kind of sort of works, sort of okay, sort of acceptable, we very quickly kind of justify, if you will, like we convince ourselves that this is right, this is the place to be, this is kind of my lot in life, and this is the way things meant to be. So much so that in psychology there is what's called Stockholm syndrome, right?
Okay.
And kind of Stockholm syndrome is basically there were hostages taken in Stockholm. I think it was like 1960s or 1970s. And obviously, I mean, hostages, it's a horrible crime. And everybody knows that it's wrong. I think you just cannot find people on the face of the planet Earth who think that taking hostages is right. But what's interesting is that obviously once these hostages have been taken, for the first couple of weeks or couple of days, I don't know exactly the details, they have been very hostile to kind of the perpetrators, right? So they like, we are victims and you are basically terrorists. But as the time was passing by, and that was not few hours, I mean, that was definitely a few days, if not few weeks, these hostages trying to basically came to the conclusion that this is the design of the world, that we are supposed to be hostages, that the terrorists are doing the right thing, and they actually started protecting the terrorists from those people who were trying to save them. They literally say that this is the way their life should be, because we sort of got in the situation and we lived in the situation long enough to start justifying what we see ourselves and things that is clearly wrong. I mean, it's objectively wrong. It's not like, it's not an opinion based, and they started to perceive that this is the way the world should be, and it's not just one person. I mean, it's the entire group of these hostages. So my reaction is that literally the God is trying to save you from this.
Okay.
The God is trying to save you from the job that's really compromised, because the God knows that maybe your current intentions is that, look, I'm going to take this job and it's temporary. I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to find something better, and then I'm going to kind of go on to become VP of sales. But the God is, as creator of man, he knows that this is not exactly the things that's going to happen. That very soon you would say, oh, well, okay, that really works. This is kind of my lot in life. This is not really realizing my highest potential, doesn't realize my highest dreams, but it is what it is. I'll just keep doing the best I can do. And so my initial reaction was that God has much greater plans for you, and he's just trying to save you from compromising on your potential. I think something much better will come very soon, and that's something will not be another compromise.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a huge help. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really great. I don't have anything other than thank you very much, and I receive that wholeheartedly. One of the things that I know Jordan knows, I don't know if I share it with you guys, is that the Lord told me a week before I lost my job. He gave me this verse in Isaiah 52 something or other, 4 maybe. And it talks about expand the stakes of your tent and strengthen your pegs and do all this, kind of basic expansion, kind of like a stretching and all that. And I didn't know, my boss was to be completely honest, he was kind of being a bully the week before I lost my job. He was being pretty bad, which is unusual. He's a believer. He's not normally he's decent. But it was really a hard few days, especially like the last 3 or 4 days. And so I was praying at night so I can get some relief so I could face the next day. So I was kind of like offloading it to God. And so I had this like picture of a 10 and the whole words, and it didn't make any sense to me. But 1 week later I lost my job, and then it made sense. Like he was preparing me to move my tent, to expand my tent. And so I have to admit to you guys, if I would have taken this job, and maybe they'll call me back and say, it was a misunderstanding, or who knows, and maybe I'll be wrong. But if not, it could absolutely be a closed door, because it was definitely, for sure, wasn't a financial stretch. It wasn't like an increase. It's a massive decrease. I could have made it work, but it would have been a decrease. And then, from a role standpoint, it would have been intriguing, sales enablement instead of sales management. So there's, in a way, I could have helped them a lot because I can enable everybody. But would that have been a stretch? Perhaps not. And really good points, really powerful. I'm going to share that with Jamie as soon as we're done. So I appreciate that. Okay, Jordan, what was your next verse? Thanks, guys. That was great.
Romans 5. Romans 5, 3 through 5.
Okay.
It says, even in times of trouble, we have a joyful confidence knowing that our pressures will develop in us patient endurance. And patient endurance will refine our character, and proven character leads back to hope. And this hope is not a disappointing fantasy, because we can now experience the endless love of God cascading into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who lives in us.
I don't know what I did there. Sorry. That's good. What was the part? Oh gosh, sorry. So basically, what'd you say about perseverance and all that? What was that?
Yeah, so it's pressure, or I can read it out of a more traditional translation.
No, I don't care. Whatever.
Well,
I shouldn't
it
keep up.
says perseverance leads to proven character. Proven character leads to hope. And so for me, whenever I'm getting attacked, I remind myself, where am I at on this?
Okay.
Am I trying to persevere? Am I thanking God for my character that's being developed, or am I hoping? Because hope is where I want to be.
Yeah.
And if I'm just not getting by, then I know, God, then you need to perfect something in my character here. If all I'm doing is just getting by and persevering, then I know that this area of my life needs to have their character proven. But
Right.
if I am in the point of hope, then I know, God, I just have to keep hoping because it's in the hope. And so in this translation, it says, hope does not disappoint because the love of God has been poured out within our hearts through the Holy Spirit. So it's
That's
all for a
great.
purpose. And so
That's great.
it starts off with tribulation.
Yeah.
So in trial, it doesn't happen anywhere else. You
Okay.
don't develop perseverance or character or hope anywhere else except for in the tribulation or in the trial or in the storm or in the wilderness. It's the only place you develop it.
Oh.
You know, you don't develop it on the mountaintop. You develop it on the way up.
Wow. You know, one of the things that has ministered to me a little bit during this, that's great, by the way. One of the things that's ministered to me during this time a little bit, and I hope, Dennis, to you too, is that by us going through this, that it makes us able to, sorry, I'm not trying to choke up right now. That came out of nowhere. That was actually for Dustin, by the way. I'll tell you why in a second. Um, but, you know, it helps us to be able to minister to somebody else. And the reason I'm choking up is because since Dustin went through that, right, he was able to share that with me a few minutes ago. You know what I mean? And so, like, sorry. So if I can, you know, if I can see some purpose long term where I can help somebody and I can lift them up, you know, that's pretty, I don't know, it kind of makes it worthwhile. I mean, listen, I don't know. I don't want to say anything radical, but why else are we here? So anyway, thanks for that. All that stuff,
Somebody
guys.
somebody has to face Goliath and kill him. Somebody has to walk through the Red Sea and tell everybody else. Somebody has to do it. And the Bible says that God is looking for a man. It says at Sodom and Gomorrah, find one person, find somebody, anybody. I'm looking for somebody who's going to raise their hand up and say, I'll be that person. And why not you? Why not me?
Yeah.
Somebody's got to stand for their marriage. Somebody does. Why not me?
Yeah.
Against all odds, why not me? Somebody's got a job out there for Dennis and for you, Howie,
Yeah.
that's going to blow your mind. And you're going to have quite a story to tell about how God is faithful and how
Yeah.
God can do everything. And it had nothing to do with me.
Yeah. That's how the
And he's going to get
2016, that's how it happened. It was literally not me. I did all this work. I killed myself, guys. 100 interviews in 100 days. That sounds impossible, but it's really not, because you can have, sometimes one job is like 5 or 6 interviews. So it's not as crazy as you think. The job I got was from something that initially rejected me. It was like the first interview or the first resume that I submitted, and they rejected me. They called me back on like the 100th day and said, hey, something opened up. Can we talk? And it was like fast track from there. So literally, like you're just saying, it was, I mean, I've literally walked what you're saying. It wasn't me. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen again, where it's really something like that, where it's so outside of my control. You know what I mean? And I'm doing diligent stuff. But Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. That resonated as well.
Well, you got to think about this, Howie, is that, if you did all these interviews and you got the job, who's going to be glorified in that?
Yeah, that's fair. Fair enough. Fair enough. Listen,
Right?
fair enough.
I mean, I would say, I can't even tell you how many times something has just come up out of nowhere that I didn't ask for, wasn't looking for. And every time I go look for something, it never works out. Never has. Never has. So,
It's kind of goes back to that verse. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Can I share one more thing?
Yeah, I love it.
So this year, God has basically had me on a Genesis 3 just kick. And so everywhere, and number one, everywhere you look in the Bible is a retell on Genesis 3, which is where Adam and Eve took the
no, that's him,
fruit.
Howie.
Okay.
They're not supposed to.
Yeah, we've got a bad signal.
Every
by this.
story is basically a retelling. And what it is God promised Adam and Eve long life, and he promised them wisdom, and he promised everything, right? But he promised the truth. But is it me?
We missed you for about 30 seconds, but I think we got the gist of
Not
it.
here or not?
Can you? Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, your videos froze.
Maybe he can't hear us. I'll tell him. We can hear
Can you hear me now?
you. Yeah, we always heard you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, hey.
Okay.
Well,
So everything's a retelling of Genesis 3, right?
I can hear you guys the whole time. So basically, it's they took the fruit, and God wanted. Yeah, everything's a retelling of Genesis 3, and that Adam and Eve took the fruit that God had promised them, but he wanted to promise it on his own time.
If you would have told me 4 hours ago, because it was at 4:09 and right now it's 8:09, if you would have told me that I would feel the way I do right now, this is unbelievable. I really trust God. What's funny is here's what's really crazy about this. I did not want to show up tonight. I mean, obviously, right? I mean, not only did I have nothing to offer, and we ran out of time to prep because my daughter's final volleyball game was there, and I did a bad job. I didn't look ahead and plan and think about the prep, so I blew it, as well. So now I've got multiple things wrong. But let alone, I can't even speak. I'm sitting there like a stone idol, watching my daughter, trying to watch my daughter volleyball, sitting there basically near shaking, having a mini, trying not to have an anxiety attack, feeling it in my heart actually, over what had just happened, right? With my daughter's final volleyball game, I gotta try to be present. So I'm trying, but I couldn't even speak to my wife. And then I got to come on here and try to collaborate and, love each other and stuff. It's that was not going to happen. I mean, I was going to try, but I don't know. I mean, I was going to make myself show up basically. And then Jordan gave me all that great stuff about Esther. And then you guys have continued to add layers of great wisdom and freedom to all that, which is really just hitting me. And so I'm gonna have some soup here in a minute. I made some cool taco soup today. But after that, I'm gonna basically not do any more job search tonight. I'm gonna sit in my chair right over here, and I'm gonna just minister to my father because I really can trust him again.
There's I can't remember what speaker was talking about this, but Romans, what you were reading, really just reminded me of this this talk that this person had, is that as Christians we should welcome perseverance. We should literally welcome perseverance, because even in just Romans 5, even verse 3, it says that we glory in tribulations. We glory in tribulations. We should be, we should ask for tribulations, because in that tribulation, character is built. Most of the time Christians want to avoid
I do.
these tribulations, right? How many
I
times,
do. Are you kidding? I do.
The disciples are literally, our skin, our flesh does not want tribulation, but our spirit welcomes it.
Wow.
Spirit welcomes it. And as Christians, we should welcome that.
Wow.
Because in that, character is built, perseverance, and hope. Right?
Wow.
And it's
That's
just
really good.
like, literally when Jordan was reading that, I remember that message, and I was like, I'm just
Great.
blown away. So literally when these trials come up, you should welcome them and say, you know what? Thank you. Because through this fire, I am going to be made better. God is working on me. I'm going to get better through this. Through this fire.
Okay. All right. I can accept that.
Brian, that goes back to what we were talking.
Lord bless Jordan's connection in Jesus' name.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
We lost your video, but I can hear you. So if you talk, okay, it's back.
I was going to say that it's like what we talked about last week about how stretching is intentional. When there's an intentionality to your stretch. Remember, I'm going for a run, and so I'm stretching on purpose. Okay. I know that it's going to hurt a little bit, but I'm doing it on purpose. And so when we recognize, hey, I'm going through something, it's going to improve my character. It's going to build hope. It is going to build perseverance. There's an intentionality. It shifts my mindset.
Oh, that's great.
Remember we talked about last week.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we did.
Remember from last week?
Yeah, but that's still, I have those notes right down here. So yeah, but still that's a very fresh angle. I feel like. So stretching is intentional. When we can recognize we're going through something, we can be intentional and sort of, use that and let God use that is how I'll kind of put my spin on it. Let God use that. Hey, one more thing.
Yeah.
This is just a fun fact. Randomly, or maybe not random, I have no idea, but Zoom extended this. I don't know if you guys could tell, it says 57 minutes right now. Yeah. So at like 38 minutes, they said, hey, we're going to not kick you off. We're going to give you a gift or whatever. So I just praise God. That's a small thing, but right now.
There is no such thing as coincidence.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, that's cool, man. It's really cool. Cool. Well, I always feel guilty when they're about me. I really do. But I hope in some way this will help somebody. Maybe by having you guys minister to me. Jesus said, it is better to give than to receive. So maybe there's something that comes to you, or by teaching me, it'll kind of like, they do say when you teach something that you learn it better. So I'm hoping like there's this nice ripple effect back to y'all because I love you guys. And sorry, I'm a softie. I'm sorry, but I do love you guys, and I really appreciate it. And this was some kind of a hellish afternoon, and now it's purposeful, and wow, really wow. And so thank you guys a lot. What can we actually? Do you mind if I shift? Do you guys have anything else, or do you mind if I shift into the roundtable a little bit?
Nope, I'm good.